Jackson Arnold transferring from Oklahoma to be the starting quarterback at Auburn this season. And this is a team that has a lot of hype surrounding them. A lot of people think that the Tigers have a chance to maybe win, 8, 9 games, or even some go as far to say as push for the playoffs. I don't know if that's quite possible. I think there's maybe a little bit more that we need to see out of Auburn. And they have a pretty tough schedule, starting off with a road trip to Baylor. This is a team that we like quite a bit. Sawyer Robertson returning at quarterback. Overall, Baylor has a really solid team with a lot of returning starters across the board. The Bears also have the home field advantage here, and I don't think that Auburn starts out the season with a win. They will drop to 0-1, but Ball State, South Alabama, piece of cake games there. They will be 2-1 heading into their first game in the SEC.
It's a doozy of a game to kick off the SEC. Storyline aside, with Jackson Arnold going on the road to face his former team in the Oklahoma Sooners, Oklahoma brought in John Matier from Washington State to be their quarterback, one of the most sought after quarterbacks in the transfer portal. And they got Jaden Ott, running back from California, who was, again, one of the most sought after running backs in the transfer portal. This Oklahoma team has a lot of potential to cause some trouble in the SEC, and it's really just going to be a tough game for Auburn. I think Jackson Arnold can improve at Auburn, but I don't know if he's going to be able to outduel John Matier in this one. Defensively, Auburn looks very good, returning so many starters, and that secondary is going to be legit. It just comes down to, can Jackson Arnold execute? And in this matchup, I trust Matier more than I trust Jackson Arnold. Auburn will kick off SEC play with a loss.
And the next game, not much easier, going on the road to Kyle Field to face Marcel Reed and the Texas A&M Aggies, another team with a ton of talent. They're right up there with Auburn and around the same tier as far as SEC teams go. But the fact that the Tigers have to deal with the 12th man does not make this one easy as well. It looks bad starting off the season 2-3, and it's really not reflective of how good we think this Auburn team is. But the schedule is just so difficult here to start it off.
Yeah, and like I was saying, this just comes down to how Jackson Arnold performs this season. If he's able to elevate his play level and be a top quarterback in the SEC or in college football, then Auburn can live up to the expectations a lot of people have for them. I don't know if I trust him quite yet. Like Jonah was saying, I do need to see a little bit out of him, especially in that week 1 game on the road against Baylor. If he's able to play solid in that game, this could easily turn into a much more successful season for Auburn. But it doesn't get much easier after the bye week, as they will be hosting Georgia. The Bulldogs have Gunnar Stockton as their quarterback next season after he took over for Carson Beck when he went down with an injury. Did lead them to an SEC championship, but did lose that one and only college football playoff game to Notre Dame. But this Georgia team maybe in for a little bit of regression with Gunnar Stockton as their quarterback. I think with a full season under his belt, he will be able to produce very solid numbers. And I think a Kirby Smart led defense is still going to be very solid. But I don't know if Georgia is going to be the undoubted top dog in the SEC this year. I think that is now shifting more towards Texas, but I still think Georgia is going to be the slightly better team over Auburn here. Once again, I just trust Kirby Smart and this Georgia team as a whole more than I do with the hype surrounding Auburn. Could be a much more interesting game and a closer game than a lot of people are expecting, but I'm going to take the dogs here.
I do think after that, though, things lighten up quite a bit with the schedule for Auburn, and it'll start with a home game against Missouri. We are not super high on this Missouri team. Bo Probola transferring in from Penn State to be the starting quarterback, and I think that he's not going to be quite as good as we saw from Brady Cook. They're also losing Luther Burden, their top wide receiver, to the NFL draft. Missouri did bring in a solid transfer portal class, but how well will those guys mesh with the rest of the team? It's tough to say. Do think that in this scenario, Auburn has the home field advantage. It's going to be a Friday night game. I like the Tigers to bounce back and get their first win in SEC play here.
Yeah, like Jonah was saying, this Missouri team is pretty hard to predict. Bo Pedulla, like you said, coming in from Penn State. They also have Ahmad Hardy coming in from University of Louisiana Monroe, and he was a very productive back there. A lot of people are saying he might be the best back in the SEC next year, but I'd like to see how he plays against these SEC defenses after playing against arguably easier competition for most of his career. And then defensively, they got Damon Wilson the second out of Georgia in the transfer portal, one of the most highly sought after recruits. And one of the most highly sought after players in the portal, and I think he can be an absolute wrecking ball for this Missouri defense. But outside of that, I think there are a lot of questions that need to be answered for this Missouri Tigers team. Following week against Arkansas on the road, Taylon Green is back as the starting quarterback for the Razorbacks. Very young and athletic quarterback who has a lot of potential, but I don't think Arkansas will be able to compete with Auburn at this point in the season. I think here Jackson Arnold will have had plenty of time to develop in this Auburn system and run a phenomenal offense. And like I said, this defense is going to be legit. Not a single player that is projected to start for this Auburn defense is a transfer player. Everyone was in the program last season, whether they were a starter or a second guy. I think that speaks volume to how good this Auburn defense can be because they've been playing in the system for so long. I think Auburn will go to 4-4 here with a big road win over Arkansas before taking on a Kentucky team that is maybe a little bit better than some people are expecting.
Yeah, Zach Calzada transferring in from Incarnate Word. He was one of the most sought after players in the transfer portal. And believe it or not, he actually played at Auburn originally in his career. So this is a little bit of a revenge game for him as well. There's a chance that Auburn gives up this win, but I don't think they will. Overall, they're still the better team. Kentucky, I do think, will struggle some this season, despite Calzada being a solid quarterback and the home field advantage going to be a big factor here. If it was at Kentucky, I'd be more inclined to say that the Wildcats could pull this upset off, but we're going to go Auburn here. And then it's a road trip to Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia returning at quarterback. And we saw what he was able to do to Auburn's rivals, Alabama, last season, as he's basically single handedly pulled off the upset, willing his team to victory. He is capable of doing things like that, and Auburn needs to watch out because this game is on the road. I don't think it'll be quite as big of an upset as it was when Vandy beat Alabama, but we are taking Diego Pavia and the Commodores to beat another really solid team this season in the Auburn Tigers, dropping them to 5-5.
I think another big thing here is Auburn is losing their starting running back in Jarquez Hunter. He is off to the NFL, so they do need someone to replace him. If the current running back that is expected to be the starter in Damari Alston does not perform to a similar level and turns this offense pretty one-dimensional, even though the wide receiver core is so good, they might see some struggles if teams start to figure out how to defend their wide receivers. So that could ultimately be a reason they drop this game to Vandy on the road here. But after their bye week, they get a very easy game in the non-conference with Mercer. 100% chance here they will move to 6-5 going into the Iron Bowl. This is going to be a very, very electric game. Alabama, after a disappointing season by Crimson Tide standards, looking for some revenge, looking to return to the top tier in the SEC. And Auburn, like we were saying, so much hype surrounding this team. Are they finally good enough to beat Alabama after they've been so close the past 2 years? This really could go either way. It is at Jordan-Hare Stadium, which is going to be huge for the Auburn team. And Alabama does have some open quarterback competition right now. It is likely going to be Ty Simpson, but really we don't know for sure yet. They have Ryan Williams as their star wide receiver, who is currently a cover athlete with Jeremiah Smith on the new College Football 26. This game really could go either way. I think this Alabama defense will see significant improvement, but I think this Auburn defense is going to be able to stand up to this Alabama offense, maybe just maybe get one key stop that leads them to a win after they've been so close the last 2 years. Give me the Tigers to win the Iron Bowl this year.
Yeah, definitely a really big upset close out the season. And I know that 7-5 probably isn't as good as Auburn fans are hoping with all the hype around them this season, but maybe a win over Alabama will make that just a little bit better. And then we could see even more improvement from Auburn in 2026. The way too early projection from us was 6.7 wins, but we had them going 5-7 originally. Flipped that around to 7-5, and projection came up a little bit as well to 6.95 wins, 3.6 and 4.4 in SEC play. We do still think that the floor for Auburn is 5-7. If everything goes wrong, they could miss a bowl game. But the ceiling's as high as 9-3. A lot of tough games on here, so I don't see them hitting double-digit wins this season. But 9-3 with this schedule, maybe, just maybe, would be enough to get them barely into the college football playoff conversation. We'll have to see, though. Thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video.